Afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Jim Ernston. I am co-minister here on this beautiful morning that we share with our cicada friends. I heard them as soon as I entered or exited my door. They greeted me with joy this morning. Let's put it that way. With what? A roaring, joyous din is what the cicadas were this morning. Welcome to you, and my co-minister here that you will hear from later is Reverend Lisa Herklotz. You'll hear from her. We have some fans here today. We have some fans. Welcome to Unity of Charlotte. We welcome you whether you are here in this sanctuary. If you're at home on Zoom, we welcome you on Zoom as well. If you're watching this later on, thank you for viewing this recording. We also have our mission statement that we would like to share and say together. Please, with me. Unity of Charlotte is the place where we nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. Simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. Simply put, we're here to love, grow, and serve. That was a test, and you all flying colors. You all passed. Flying colors. If you're here for the first time, we would ask you to just gently raise your hand so that we could acknowledge that you're here for the first time. And we've all been here before. So welcome back. Welcome back anyway. If you're here for the first time on Zoom, type something in and we will welcome you that way as well. We invite you to utilize all the different ways to check us out. We've got our website, we've got the newsletter, we've got Facebook, we've got YouTube, and we've got the bulletin board back there. Bulletin board has all the QR codes. If you love QR codes, you're going to love our bulletin board because you can, anyway, never mind. I invite you to take a breath, close your eyes, and move within for a moment as we affirm love within our lives. We're so grateful for that love, for that possibility of coming together here today on Zoom as well. But if we are here to be able to break bread together, to have that meal later on, we're so grateful for that chance. We bless everyone within this congregation. As we move into the month of May, we're so happy to be able to bless each other with our presence. We feel that gratitude, this opportunity to come together, this opportunity to meet at Wesley United Methodist Church for this past year. We've been here for a year and grateful for this opportunity. We also look forward to our next space that we meet and come together. We see that spirit of joy in our lives, and we simply say, thank you, thank you, thank you. Amen. Please join me in our unity prayer of oneness. So out loud, there is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God the good, omnipotence. If you have know that we can hold you in prayer if anything is happening in your life, something is happening to you, a friend, a situation in your life, know that we have that prayer team. You have the opportunity of submitting that prayer request on our website, from the newsletter, from the prayer box that you're going to see out in the hallway as well. You can fill out a little hard copy slip and enter and put that into that little slots. You also have the chance of using Silent Unity and calling them on the phone or texting with them pretty much on your phone if you want to do that. But if you do know somebody that you want to hold in prayer at this time, we invite you to say their name or say that situation out loud now. Take that moment to hold these names, hold these situations in our heart, knowing knowing that prayer works, and knowing that that situation is fulfilling as we speak. Amen. Now's the time for our daily word. I invite Mickey to come on up.
Siento gozo al celebrar la vida. Cada día es un tesoro lleno de pequeñas maravillas que despiertan la alegría en lo ordinario. Contemplo la belleza del sol, saboreo la dulzura de mis frutas frescas y respiro el aire nocturno.
Do you want me to use this or this? You can hang on to that. Today's word is joy. I feel joyous as I celebrate life. Each new day as a treasure filled with life's gems found in even the most ordinary moments. Joy filled my heart when I paused to notice the wonder that surrounds me. I let my gaze linger as I watch the setting sun, or close my eyes as I savor the sweetness of fresh fruit. Beneath the night sky, I breathe deeply and partake of the fresh, clean air.
Esta belleza exterior palidece ante lo que existe en mi interior. Me siento profundamente bendecida y lleno de gozo por mi unicidad con Dios y el universo.
The beauty of the world pales in comparison to the beauty within me. I am so deeply and wondrously blessed to know my oneness with God and with all there is. There is no greater joy.
Cada día despierto agradecido. Vivo para compartir esta alegría como hijo de Dios. Irradio luz y amor, anhelo que otros encuentren la misma alegría divina que yo. Cada día es una celebración de la vida, una oportunidad para agradecer y difundir la alegría que emana de la conexión espiritual con el universo abundante.
I wake and praise each new day and feel newly alive. I go out into the world and share the joy of being a child of God in the abundant universe. I spread joy and love to everyone I meet, trusting that they know the joy of God as I do. And from Psalms, for you, O Lord, have made me glad by your work. At the works of your hands I sing for joy. Today's word, joy.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the fact it's springtime. And how many of you have been in your gardens? I know you have. Most of you don't know this, but Yvonne is actually a master gardener. And Donna, and who else likes to get in the garden and get their hands in the dirt? Yeah. Sometimes we live in an apartment right now, so we don't really have that opportunity, but we will soon enough. I want to start with a little story. It's a short little story about a British poet named Samuel Taylor. And he had invited some friends over to his home, and he was having a conversation with one of them. And that one was saying that they didn't believe children should be given a formal religious education of any kind. So Coleridge didn't even really bother to debate. He just led this friend of his to his neglected garden. And his friend looked out at the garden and said, "This isn't a garden. This is nothing but weeds." To which Coleridge replied, "Well, you see, I did not wish to infringe on the liberty of the garden in any way. I was just giving the garden a chance to express itself and choose its own production." Now, this is not going to be a talk about how to raise your children and religion, just to be very, very clear. But what I did like about this story is the idea that when a garden goes untended, it grows wild and it doesn't produce a bounty. Now, our minds are like gardens, and that's what this talk's going to be about. Our mind is like a garden. And have you ever noticed that if you don't pay attention and just allow the mind to go willy-nilly on its own, it can get pretty chaotic. And it doesn't often produce a result that we're very happy with. So, if we turn to Genesis 2:15, there's scripture in there that says, the Lord God took the man to dress it and to keep it. And our thoughts are the seeds that we plant and tend to and nurture, which become the experiences we manifest in our life. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And we're going to start with probably one of the most simple ideas and straightforward ideas, and I'm sure it's not something anybody has not heard before. Have you ever heard what you reap what you sow? You reap what you sow. Simple, right? If I want a bountiful vegetable garden, I'm not going to plant flower seeds, right? If I want a beautiful rose garden, I'm not going to plant daisies. It's so simple and common sense, and yet how does this work in our minds? If we want our garden to yield an abundant, nourishing supply, then we're not going to want to let the weeds take over and become what happens in there. And it's the same with our mind and our thoughts. If I want joy and peace, then these are the seeds of ideas and beliefs I want to plant in my mind. And then I want to nurture them and nourish them so that they deepen their roots and they grow. If I want a life of freedom and adventure and abundance, then these are the seeds I want to plant in my mind and nurture and feed to allow them to grow. Charles Fillmore has this amazing quote: "Words are also seeds, and when dropped into the invisible spiritual substance, which is consciousness," when we talk about invisible spiritual substance, our consciousness is not our brain. Our consciousness is that invisible realm of thought and ideas, mind. And in that mind is infinite substance. And when we drop words like seeds into this, they grow and bring forth after their kind. And this is how we nurture it. If I want to experience love in my expression in my life and with other people, well, then I plant ideas of love. I plant beliefs of love. And I continue to feed and nourish those ideas. Because if I just drop a seed in without any water, what's going to happen? It won't really grow, will it? It'll just dissipate. So we have to feed these, and that's what it means when we put a word in our mind and we feed it with more ideas about love and feelings of love, then it grows roots and becomes strong. And it comes forth in our lives as our expression in our life experience. I'd like to think, well, let me talk first about the idea of divine ideas, because divine ideas are the seeds of perfection that are always available in divine mind. Divine mind is another word we use for God. God as mind, as principle, as the whole. And in that mind are divine ideas: wholeness, unconditional love, infinite possibility. These are divine ideas, and they are readily available to us in our individual consciousness to take as a seed, plant in our own individual consciousness, and feed so that we get to play with those ideas out here in this thing we call human life. We could think of the 5 principles as these divine seeds. The Unity 5 principles. The first one, which we say every day, is There is only one creative source of life, and that is God, all good, absolute good. And because that is the one source of all life, then it follows that I am also an expression of that infinite life. And I have the creative capacity to express these divine ideas in my own unique way, in this human expression. The third principle, which is really kind of where we're working on this, is we create our life experiences by the way we are thinking. The thoughts we're putting into our mind, the thoughts that we choose to believe and we feed with and fuel with feeling, becomes what we experience in our life. Thoughts held in mind, produced in kind, is often how that state, you'll hear that stated at as Unity's third principle. The fourth principle says we awaken our awareness of this source through the power of prayer and meditation. We have a way of practicing so that we stay connected to this source of all that is, to be able to bring it in through our own individual consciousness and into expression here. And the fifth principle simply means we must put these first four principles into action. We have to do them. To say them or read about them is nice. It's like, those are nice principles. I like that. It makes me kind of happy. But now we put them into action to prove. Often we say to people at Unity, you may not believe this now. I know most of Butterworth and Fillmore always said, these are our co-founder and Unity ministers, you don't have to believe it, but try it. Put some of these ideas to the test and see what you manifest in your life. And it's been proven over and over again. So if we take for a moment this idea that the seeds I plant are going to impact, and the seeds I nourish and feed in my mind with my thoughts are what's going to manifest in my life. Think back on a situation that didn't go well. Think back on something, maybe this past week, maybe in the past month. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It could be something small, a little uncomfortableness with a friend or family member. And as you recall the situation, think honestly about what you were thinking about it. What thoughts were you holding in your mind about it? I mean, I've noticed sometimes when I have to call somebody that I'm not particularly fond of, I might start before I'm even picking up the phone going, well, I know how this phone call is going to go. And I know what they're going to say. I know how they're going to react when I ask them blah, 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 right? I'm planting some seeds of mistrust and judgment and probably a grievance for something they did, which is why I'm judging them. And now how do you think that phone call is going to go? I'll hang up and go, see? I knew it. I knew it. Now here's the practice. What if I pick up that phone call and I say, you know, I'm carrying a lot of preconceived ideas here. These are not the seeds I want to be nurturing. I want to shift in this relationship. I want to open it up to a real connection. I don't know what to say or how to do that, but I'm going to let that be my thought. Do I really know? What do I really know about this person? What if this judgment, it doesn't really matter. What if I can just let it go for a moment and imagine this is a brand new moment? And I don't know how it's going to go, but I want it to be loving. And then I start feeding. I want this to be loving. I want to see a connection. I want to feel a connection with this person. Now when I pick up that phone, there's certainly a high possibility and probability it will go quite differently. We don't necessarily change the other person, but we can change how we are with them. And that can change everything. So let's move on now to the idea of preparing the ground, right? You have to prepare your soil when you're gardening. And for this, I'm going to turn to Matthew 13 and the parable of the sower. And I'm going to be reading out, this is a very interesting version of the New Testament, which we have put out in Unity. It hasn't changed the words of the Bible at all. It's added annotations and notes with our metaphysical interpretation of it. So it's a really interesting Bible that's available if anybody ever wants to get one. Reverend Jim and I actually helped do the book of Revelation. So we had a little hand in it. So Matthew 13 is the parable of the sower, and it goes like this. He spoke to them many things in parables, saying, "Behold, a farmer went out to sow, and he sowed some seeds that fell by the roadside, and the birds came and devoured them. Others fell on rocky ground where they didn't have much soil, and immediately they sprang up because they had no depth of earth. When the sun had risen, they were scorched because they had no root, and they withered away. Others fell among thorns. The thorns grew up and choked them. And others fell on good soil and yielded fruit, some 100 times as much, some 60, some 30. He who has ears to hear, let him hear." Now, there's a different interpretation of that, which I'll touch on, but what I really want to look at is the idea that these are the seeds of divine ideas that we have access to from the mind of God. But are our minds open, fertile ground, ready to receive those ideas, plant them, and nourish them so they grow roots and begin to grow and express in our lives? Or is our mind, the soil or the ground of our mind, kind of dry and rocky, where maybe we are shut off, we're closed, we're not wanting to hear new ideas, we're just in a state of protecting ourselves, we're closed off to hearing or gaining those divine ideas? Then if they do get in, they have nowhere to root. Or is it full of weeds? I don't know what your weeds look like. Mine are fear, worry, anxiety, concern, despair. These are weeds that grow in my mind, and if I keep letting them grow, they're going to choke out any divine idea I try to put in. Because I can say, I am a whole and perfect child of God. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills next week. I don't know what I'm going to do about that person. And I'm really worried about where's our church going to go next? I don't know. Will it be good enough? Will everybody come with us? Those are the weeds that can start to grow in our minds. So how do we make our minds fertile and rich so that when we receive these divine ideas, they can take root and grow? One thing is to stay open. Keep your mind open to learning and seek out fellowship with other spiritually minded individuals, because that's one of the best ways to nurture these spiritual ideas. Give and forgive. Give and forgive, one of the best practices to continue to create a fertile ground for divine ideas to take hold. Have a consistent practice of prayer and meditation. This is how we stay in touch with the divine source of all that is, the divine source of our life, and the divine source of these divine ideas we get to play with. Finally, there's a need for personal desire, decision, and dedication. A seed doesn't pop up overnight, does it, into a full plant? There's an unfolding. There's a divine order, and we need to continue to nourish that. So it takes a desire to want to do that, and it takes the decision to do it and the dedication to stay with it. Weeding is also crucial. Weeding. So how many of you go out there and you weed your garden or your flower bed or your lawn, and you step back and you go, wow, And then you go, oh, well, that's done. I'll never have to do that again. Not so much, right? Not so much. Because what do those darn weeds do? They just come back and they come back and they come back. But the more you weed, the less they come back and they come back and they come back. There's a gentleman named Doug Larson who's a newspaper columnist, and he was known for his humorous one-liners. Here's one of them. A weed is a plant that has mastered every survival skill except for learning how to grow in rows. And I laughed because I thought, this is kind of like the weeds that grow in our mind. They get very skillful at finding places to take root and try to grow. That's our human nature. But the one thing they can never do, he says grow in a row, but I say align with truth, spirit. They cannot do that because they're not the truth. And the divine ideas we grow are in alignment. So I have learned that this is a process of constant weeding out of negativity, of beliefs that are not true. It's a constant practice. And the more we do it, the stronger the divine ideas take hold and we live from, and the less the weeds come back. So I learned to be ever vigilant, right? Every day you wake up, what's your first thoughts? As you are meeting your friends or other individuals, what thoughts are going on in your mind? As you're thinking about your day, what thoughts are running through? It's just a matter of paying attention. It's called mindfulness. That's really what mindfulness is. Mindfulness is simply a practice of paying attention to what you're thinking in the moment and then be present to simply what is. So I had a time when I was working at J&J, Johnson & Johnson, and there were going to be some layoffs. There's always layoffs if you work in the corporate world. But, you know, what's the first thought I had? First, the weeds started popping up, right? The weeds are, what if I get laid off and I don't have an income? How am I going to pay my bills? What's going to happen? I'm going to get more in debt. What if I get sick and then I can't pay my medical bills? Like the what ifs, see, the weeds have a way of propagating upon themselves. But so does divine ideas. So all I did was very gently go, wait a minute. Fear has no power in my life. Fear has no power in my life. Puff, there goes a weed. Puff, there goes another weed. But then I follow it up with nourishing water. And I might say, I am fed and led by the eternal love of my divine source. Gently, fear has no power here. And strongly, my life is fed and led by my divine source of love. And as I continue to nourish that idea, it wouldn't matter what happened. It honestly wouldn't matter if I got laid off or not, because with that affirmation, I am being led to the next thing always. Always. So finally, we're going to move to the last stage of this, which is celebrate. Celebrate with gratitude. And I initially, when I was doing this talk, thought, okay, it's when we harvest that bounty from this practice, right? We've planted the seeds, we've done the work, now we're harvesting this bounty of goodness in our lives. Remember to be grateful. Remember to feel that gratitude deeply. And then give it away, give it away, give it away, because giving is how we continue to grow our abundance, because it's all circulation. But what I've noticed is when I'm feeling really grateful, giving is so easy. Like it's what you want to do, right? You want to share, because sharing is how you grow that feeling. And when I'm fearful and anxious, that's when I'm holding on. So when you have accomplished this, but even before, this was the idea. So initially it was like, when you've harvested that bounty, that's when you celebrate. But I'm going to change that, because I woke up this morning and went, really, you can celebrate all along the way. You don't have to wait until your harvest is in. You can feel gratitude. Matter of fact, that's the best way to nurture these ideas, these seeds, is by feeling grateful. I am so grateful to know that I live in an abundant, opulent universe that will accommodate my every need. That I have a loving, creative source of presence within me and that lives through me. So now it doesn't matter whether I'm tending to the soil, planting the seed, watering it and weeding it. That sense of gratitude can be there all along the way. And that's one of the greatest things you can do to nourish and allow these ideas and these beliefs to take strong root. So, in summary, I'm on it. Eric Butterworth. Generosity is a key to abundance. Generosity is the expression of gratitude and the expression of giving. There was Reverend Jim and I were at a awards breakfast for MECMIN, which is the Interfaith Network, last week. No, this Thursday morning. I think it was just this Thursday. And they had a pastor speak, accept an award. And he gave me this little poem. I don't know if I want to call it a poem, but I'm going to just share it with you because it made me laugh, and I thought it was awesome. He said, "Must I give again? I say. Must I really give it all away?" "No," said the angel, piercing me through. "Just give until God stops giving to you." Wasn't that awesome? I loved it. I loved it. So in summary, we have talked about the awareness of the power of our thoughts and the vigilance we need to know what seeds are we planting in our mind. We have recognized that by taking responsibility, we are empowered to manifest prosperity and abundance joyfully. By participating in spiritual practices, fellowship, and service, we keep our mind open and fertile for those divine seeds to take root. And finally, we remember all along the way, we get to celebrate with gratitude. Namaste. So, thank you. Let's take just a moment now to take all this information in and just go to that still, quiet place. I don't have my meditation slide. That's all right. We're going to do it in silence today. Isn't that beautiful? I invite you to take a deep breath in and feel it exhale as you relax your body a little more into the seat. With your eyes gently closed, feel the muscles in your face. Gently let go and relax. Take another deep breath in, feeling the nourishment of that air to your body. And a slow, gentle exhale out as you let your mind settle into a quiet place. and watching the breath just a few more cycles. Feel yourself becoming centered and quiet right here, right now, with nothing else to think about or do. This is the way that we open ourselves, or at least one of the ways, to that divine flow of light, love, and divine ideas. We open that channel into our own consciousness, gently clearing out any weeds of false ideas or beliefs. Enriching the soil which these seeds come into with quietness, openness, and receptivity. And for this moment, let a single divine idea appear to you. Whatever it may be, just listen. You don't have to think about it. Love, faith, strength, wisdom, whatever that idea is that's ready to be planted and rooted in your consciousness, nurtured and fed so that it blossoms and blooms into an expression manifested in your life. And when you're ready, feel a sense of gratitude for these moments of silence and presence. And then bring your attention back to your breath. Gently breathing in and out. Begin to wiggle your toes, your fingers. A little movement in your body as you come back centered into this sacred sanctuary, this holy gathering of spiritual friends. Then you may open your eyes. Namaste.
Reverend Lisa shared with us that we celebrate as we move through the growth of these thoughts and stuff. Most of you know that I'm a city boy from LA. I kind of thought that corn just showed up in the grocery store in the summertime. I had no idea. We moved to Minnesota and we traveled a lot of times through Iowa, and corn everywhere. And if it wasn't corn, it was beans, right? So it was corn. That celebration, knee high at 4th of July, was something I learned from the locals. They celebrated that it was grown and it was going, knee high at 4th of July. Okay, we now move into that offering part of our service. I'm going to invite up Reverend Jim Fuller for a testimonial.
Testify. We were talking at the board and meeting, and we decided to have somebody once a month come up and just share a little bit about why they give or how they got giving. I'll share that I grew up not giving a lot, knowing that money was scarce, that we had enough, but just. Any of you ever had those thoughts? And so that was kind of what I grew up with. And those thoughts manifested themselves in my life very well. And was not fun. Until about the late 90s, I was at Unity Church, and somebody finally got me to go through a prosperity class. I'd listened to some talks, but to actually do a class that was an ongoing program, and included in that, starting with week 1, was tithing. You look at your income, I don't care if you do gross or net, and you commit, commit every week to do that. And of course, I was terrified. But I decided to take the challenge and work with the whole program, which was about a lot more than tithing. It was about letting go of old thoughts. It was about looking at thoughts. It was about inviting new thoughts in, weeding and watering. And starting in 1997, I started tithing. And it was amazing. The money actually stretched out to allow me to do that. Now, the fascinating thing is, in the years since 1997, money and I have, and everything I need, have become on a much more intimate basis and friendly basis. There's always everything I need and more, and more, and more. It's sort of like I finally stopped standing on the garden hose and wondering why the water wasn't coming out. So I just wanted to share that, and one of the things I learned also from Unity was to tithe to the place where you are getting spiritually fed. I actually now look at tithing as a way of, or giving, call it giving, that doesn't scare people as bad. Giving as a way of partnering with God. Reverend Lisa at Thanksgiving asked us what we were grateful for, and I'm sitting back there at the sound booth and I'm looking around and I'm going, this is what I'm grateful for. This is what I'm grateful for. This is what helps me keep and maintain and grow my spiritual connection. So obviously, out of, as Randolph Wilkinson used to say, out of enlightened self-interest, I want to keep this rolling. I want to make this happen. And of course, as you do that out of gratitude, more shows up. So I give because I love y'all, and I appreciate what you guys do to support me in my spiritual growth. And it works way beyond what my little human mind, way beyond all the little worries and weeds. So that is why I give, and why I give here specifically. And I do support a few other places that are also my spiritual source. So, you want to keep all the water taps running. And I'll stop because you should never get a minister to say why he gives. No, I give all the time. Yes, I do. In fact, one of the hardest things for me was when I went off to seminary for a while, and I was not working regularly, and I was used to giving a lot, and if I figured up actually my income, it was like I wasn't giving enough. So I went ahead and gave anyway, even though it really wasn't officially coming in. And of course, that worked out better than one would have ever thought, because it's where I was coming from. When we give from love, when we give because we know this is what's keeping us moving forward spiritually, it's like, you can't outgive God or the universe, creation, whatever you want to call it. Call it Ralph, it doesn't care. Just pay attention. So, you're going to help us with the prosperity blessing?
Thank you. I give consistently. I use my bill pay system. Boom, it comes out of my account without me even thinking. So I use bill pay as my consistent giving method. We know that as we give, so do we receive. It's through our generous gifts that Unity of Charlotte continues to be a light in this community. Please say with me, as you hang on to either your gift today, if that's cash, if that's a check, if that's a blessing, whatever it is, or the image of that gift. So for me, it's the image of that check moving through the mail and to be counted later on. So it's more of an image. I'm blessing that here today with these words. Join me. I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. We are light. The love of God enfolds us. We are love. The power of God protects us. We are power. The presence of God watches over us. We are presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.